Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Runs0b3r podcast. This is episode
12.
No.
I went full on game show face with it. So I'll take 12, Bob,
Nine.
for
Is this
400.
nine? Is this nine? Nine. Okay, today's guests are Gunner Wallace.
What's up, everybody?
Howdy, Gunner.
Richard Wallace.
How's everybody doing?
The Almighty.
Howdy, brother.
Yeah, fantastic.
William Wallace.
William Wallace, yes. We are a local Dallas-Fort Worth production. We do not only discuss running and sobriety, but all walks of life, for every one of us has a unique story. The journey begins and ends with you. And to the left of me is my co-host,
Eric J. Henderson.
Eric J. Henderson.
At least that's what Mom and Dad called me before I knew anything.
And my parents called me Brandon K. Veltman.
BK double.
So today I want to talk with Richard. I want to get your backstory. And I know that we did record already and no volume happened. So we're going to do it again, man.
Testimony to good folks. Brand new day, brand new talk, brand new everything.
What it was? It was a God thing. I think that it was just like, it was only meant for us that day.
It was awesome.
It wasn't meant for anybody else.
I was appreciating you guys' spirit in that. Like, literally, I'm glad you say that, Brandon. Zero regret. Because we just vibed for the hour and a little bit more.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So Richard, I want to hear your backstory again, which is, man, probably one of the best stories I've ever heard. So just a little bit about me. I'm a recovering addict. 8 years off of meth and heroin. So
congratulations.
So recovery date is August 12th, 2016. So that was my clean date from that. And so, Richard, I'm going to have you take it away. You had a long story last time, and I want to hear a lot about it.
Awesome.
All right, cool.
I want to trim it down and get to the important stuff.
No. It was all good, I thought.
Yeah. Richard Wallace, Jr. And I am I'm a human in recovery. Crystal meth was my drug of choice. My drug of choice today is my beautiful wife, Michelle.
All right.
My incredible children, Gunner, who's here with me today.
Nice. Gunner Wallace.
How old are you today? 22.
Yeah, 22.
Yeah, 22.
Today.
It's today's birthday.
No, my daughter, my middle daughter, my middle child, is 21 today.
Wow.
Nice.
Ember. And then
Happy birthday, Amber.
happy birthday to you. And then my little gift, Everly Grace, is 6. And so they are my drug of choice today. Yeah. And we live just for today. So I'm a pastor's kid. I grew up in an incredibly loving home. I always tell people that my dad and mom, what you see on the stage or on the platform at Temple Baptist Church in Flower Mound, is what you're going to see behind closed doors. Incredible upbringing, very loving. There's not a day, I don't think, that's gone by in my 45 years on the planet that I haven't heard either one of them tell me that they love me and they're proud of me. And life was great until about age 11, when I became the victim of childhood sexual abuse at the hands of a true sadist from age around 11 and a half to 13. And his thing was prepubescent boys. And so, yeah, to say the least, right? And so that led to a bunch of trauma, a bunch of negative energy that I pushed down for a lot of years. And so that manifests itself in ways, a lot of children, teenagers that get involved in childhood trauma, turn to drugs and alcohol and other vices at the time. For me, that wasn't the case. I just, through a series of circumstances, started acting out in an effort to prove my sexuality. And that then snowballed into a bunch of bad choices. And it wasn't until age 19 that I was actually introduced to alcohol. And the first time I ever drank I got smashed, and for the first time, all of that anxiety and depression kind of disappeared, and I couldn't get enough fast enough, and it just became chasing that dragon, and that eventually turned into the party drugs in the early 2000s, and then that, I was introduced to crystal meth one time, and game over.
Yep. That's kind of definitely not my story, but that whole introduced to crystal meth one time and game over.
Yeah.
That's a one powerful, one hell of a drug, actually. So yeah.
Yeah, they call it the devil's dandruff for a reason, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
It
real
really is, man. It got a stranglehold on me quick.
Yeah.
He went AWOL on the A-ball.
Is it conscious either at that moment or right after that moment when you say, whoa, this is, or is it just, it has you? Like, is it I know where I am, and I know it's going to be a bad place, but I'm going there,
It's a weird drug. My personality is very, very driven.
Mhm.
I don't like to sit still or stand still, and so it was kind of the devil's perfect storm for me, I guess, because it then takes that level of just self drive that you have, and then it just like steroid boosts it. And you really, and I think we talked about this the last time we were together, it really makes you feel super productive in the early days, before the sleep deprivation hits and the madness really starts. It really, you can zero your focus in, but then the problem is it's not long until you're tearing stuff apart that was perfectly functioning and trying to figure out how to put it back together. You just get stuck doing the weirdest things. It's just a curious substance. And for me, it started not innocently enough. We had just run out of the drugs and alcohol that we liked and were used to, which was party drugs at the time. And my buddy was like, "Hey, I know a guy that sells Tina."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What's that?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "Well, do you have any foil?" And I'm like, "Probably." And
I bet.
and away it went.
Yeah. Huh.
Wow. There's all those moments, the I know a guy moment. It was 8th grade for me.
Mm.
The guy said, "Eric, do you want to try this?" It was marijuana. I said, I wasn't amped for it or not, but just on my, I'm that type too. Like, it's going to keep moving. I'm always going to stay curious. And I said, well, sure, let me try it. And he said, okay, cool. Meet me after school. And it was the classic Texas scenario. David had a Camaro. Had a mullet. And I think it was one of those things that he was a conscious stereotype. If you drop that fool in New York City, he says, yes, my name is David. Yes, my grass right now is 4.7 inches high. There's a car buried in my backyard if I mow that grass. And I drive a Camaro and I got the mullet. What do you have to say? So anyway, so after school, I meet him and David said, oh man, I forgot. And I never went back to ask him about it. And I wouldn't run into it or from it. But I think that's probably a moment.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What you just said, like, hey, I know a guy who sells Tina. What's that? There's amazing moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was, like you were saying, like it was the problem solver for a while. And we grew up we're about the same age, right?
Mhm.
I'm 48.
Yeah.
So,
Right there.
So 1976 is when I was born. 76?
79.
79? Oh,
Yeah.
you're 3 years younger.
Yeah, I'll be 46 in July.
Right. Okay. So basically, you're probably right around the same time. We didn't have the attention deficit disorder drugs out there
Mhm.
for the doctors and to prescribe us. I think there was some stuff out there, maybe Ritalin or something like that.
Yeah.
That time. So finding that methamphetamines was like golden, because I could get stuff done.
Right.
I'm sure you could too. And then spiraling out of control was probably a week or 2 weeks, maybe a month later.
It doesn't take long.
It doesn't take long at all. So yeah. So pretty similar with that. I did. I mean, that was when I found that drug. I was like, I found what I was looking for in life. You know, like it was the Holy Grail or something. You know. So,
Yeah.
But it does change. So.
Yeah, and it changes us.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And
So-
I like what you were saying, Eric. I think, you know, I've heard this saying, I attribute it to a pastor that I heard say it for the first time, Ed Young. But he said, show me.
Shout out to Ed Young.
Show me your 5 friends and I'll show you your future.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that's beautiful right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is,
That's heavy.
there's
Yeah.
4 of us here today, and
Yeah.
I think our future looks pretty bright.
Right.
God
Yeah.
bless.
Yeah.
You know, we're just chasing the next sunrise and the next bunch of miles.
Right. Oh yeah.
That's it. Man. That's it. That's it.
The next pain cave.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
exactly right.
The good ones, though.
And that's the only conscious thing I think that you can do. A lot of people talk about, I'm going to be better, I'm going to do this, and blah, blah. Like, for me, it's not that I can do better or be better. The only good I can do comes from Christ, through Christ.
That's right.
Don't worry, B, I'm not about to preach. But the point is this.
I like the
You
message.
good?
We're all 100% equal. You had all the people looking at Jesus saying, look, hey, I never robbed, I never stole, I never did this. And he said, yeah, you did the physical, but that pride, the mental. And so the fact that I had a moment where I'm looking at it and then it just went away. You'll go through it when a lot of people look at you, meth head, look at you. When even without drugs, and this is not a metaphor, it's a fact, there are deeper addictions and pride that you see totally turn people's brains. And I think having come through a space like that, you can see it because you felt all the judgment.
Yeah.
And you can see other people in spaces that are, it's scary, irreparable almost,
It's true.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what keeps it for me. I'm like, dog, it's not like, wow, that guy's on drugs. It's like, no, I'm on drugs. And if not for the constant intervention of the Holy Spirit, then there's no way I can do anything that means anything. So that's it.
It's powerful.
Very nice. Very nice. So, Richard? Where did you get clean? Was it a recovery center?
Yeah. So the first time was in 2007. So, you know, I think if I go back, so that was, you know, I think I went to Fort Knox, Kentucky in 1998, and that was the first time I got drunk. And then it was basically like that was all consuming until shortly after September 11th, 2001.
Alcohol, was it?
It was alcohol until that point. Yeah, until 2001. And again, surrounded by buddies. And, you know, I was in the Marine Corps Reserve at the time, you know, and all my buddies were using ecstasy and GHB and ketamine and all that. But, you know, I couldn't pop dirty on a drug test. So I would just go out with them, you know, and I would drink and they would do their party drugs. And that's why, you know, I love this statement that we've been hearing lately, which is set the standard, hold the standard.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my standard was set, but I wasn't setting with the people that would help me hold that standard. And so it just became that, again, a moment in time where, you know, I was in the middle of a depression because of September 11th and the fear and anxiety of the potential of going to war. And, you know, they had offered me ecstasy 1,000,000 times. And I had said no, and, you know, I would just drink. And for some reason, that particular night at Billy Bob's, of all places, to drop ecstasy for the first time.
That's a nice bull. Wow.
I bet he has soft fur.
Yeah.
He needs a hug. And so then I don't remember how long after that I got introduced to crystal meth, but I was either full blown alcoholic, non functioning from 1998, semi functioning I would say until around the time he was born in 2002, and I somewhat got my stuff together, and then I became a high functioning user of stimulants, crystal meth and cocaine. And then my wife had no idea.
Oh wow!
And so then in late 2006, the wheels started to really come off. And then in 2007, early 2007, I got clean for the first time. My wife found out for probably the second or third time, and I would do the whole thing, I've quit, but no accountability, no meetings, no better friend group, no nothing, just me bamboozling her. And in 2007, she found a bunch of drug paraphernalia in my car, and it's crazy because I was the branch manager
right around the
of
corner.
the mortgage company right around the corner.
Yeah.
And she called my dad and said, I'm done. I'm taking the kids to a birthday party for one of their little friends. And if you want anything to do with him, you can go see him. And my dad literally kicked my door down. I was sitting on the toilet smoking meth off of foil.
Came and got you.
When he came in the house, and he came and got me.
Yeah.
And it's a crazy story of grace and love that time. And as a pastor's kid, I basically knew all there was to know about God, but I had no personal relationship with him. And so that next morning, February 25th, 2007, I went to church for the first time and really had a spiritual awakening, an encounter with God, and went to work for my dad's church. And 90 days into my sobriety, at that time, we started a recovery ministry at my dad's church called Reformers Unanimous, and really got down and dirty really fast.
Yeah.
Nice. Trying to pull people out of dirty places and pits.
Yeah.
Homeless ministry,
awesome.
prison ministry was dynamite. And so
And
then
even while you're still wrestling with it.
yeah, it was beautiful.
And was Gunner attending this with you or no?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
so he was going with you with all this.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
He was raised
Amazing.
in the mix.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's good. I mean, it's good and bad, but it's good.
Actually, it's really good. I wouldn't even say that it was bad.
Yeah.
I think that it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Perfect. I just learned a lot at a really young age.
Yeah.
Tell you what every drug looked like at 8 years old,
Yeah.
6 years old.
Yeah, and my friends in recovery, I have watched him grow up, and he's seen them grow in recovery and sobriety, and he's felt the heartbreak of, seeing, unfortunately, some of our friends, they're his friends too. I think of our friend Danny, I got a call on a Sunday afternoon from Danny's teenage son at the time, Zach, and he said, Danny's dead. Danny's dead.
Oh, wow.
And so Danny was Gunner's buddy.
Yeah.
Or Gunner was Danny's buddy, I should say.
At that age for it to hit you, when you have like pure consciousness, how old were you?
Yeah, I mean, it was just,
Man.
and I think that the older I get, the more and more I really do realize that, like, it sucks just watching people, try their hardest to get out of these dark places.
Oh, yeah.
And then, to either see them succeed for a while and then go back into it and then no longer be here, or, go back into it and come back out the other side better. It's an emotional roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at that moment, it was just very like, whoa, this is real. Like, I understood drugs, but I never really understood, like, what they did.
Yeah.
And I think that was a very, flip of the light switch moment where it was like, holy smokes, like, can't play around with this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's huge for anything. It seems that people will first jump to opinion, and we live in a time of that, jump to judgment. But what you just said is heavy, like, whoa, that is real. If we were to stop and consider a thing, look at a thing, I think reality is what we're probably missing. You just hit me with that. No, this is what it is. Like, whoa. And that's when
It's
it hit
death.
you.
It's literally what it is.
Yeah.
It's killing you. That's all it is. It's just
Mhm.
death. Yeah. Ooh, goosebumps. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the end results usually.
Yeah.
So
And, it was a tragedy. Dallas Vice knew of this place. That old hotel off of Harry Hines, where there were literally like people buried, thrown out back.
Oh man, I'm not even familiar with that.
Yeah, you know, it's like
Wow.
the Shingmin Hotel or whatever. Literally is.
Is that Harry Hines on where Northwest Highway? Or no, not-
Probably. I would have to look it up.
Yeah.
But it recently, like one of the, not too recently, but within the last couple of years, a Dallas Observer or whatever did a big article on it.
Oh wow.
Like
You
the
know, and it
informal
was-
cemetery back there.
And so we, you know, so that went from 2000, mid 2007 to 2013, and then we started our own church and kind of carried that vibe of, you know, let's not be a museum for the saints, but let's be a hospital for the broken. And that was dynamite. But you know, new believers and people coming out of addiction into recovery don't really know how to financially support a church, and
Yeah, for
and
sure.
so
let
in-
alone themselves. I think that sometimes they, you know, they've been addicted to a substance or a thing or whatever it might be for, you know, years and years. And it's like they're finally actually trying to give their life meaning, but they don't know where to start.
Yeah.
You know, and I think even like looking back, like, yeah, it sucked that, you know, the doors had to close and everything, but really looking back, I kind of have more of a, I guess, an adult perspective of it, you know, especially from looking at it from a preteen sort of view, that like, you know, it's hard for people to like get their lives together whenever they've been doing something for, you know, the majority of their life. So, yeah. Anyways, that's
Absolutely. And so it was just the perfect storm of, you know, trying to run a business. I mean, the church is a business, and that business struggling and eventually failing, you know, so there was a lot of micro traumas that went along with that, you know, and then the spiritual questions of, you know, God, you know, I thought you called me to this, you know, and, where were you in this season, you know, and so it was just I was trying to drive Uber and that is, you know, I was driving late night Uber and trying to continue to make this church work. And the church was really struggling and floundering. And it's just the history of how things went, you know, and I was
And what was
tired
that? What
and-
was that church called?
Life Change Church.
Life Change Church.
Yeah, and we
And,
ended.
and
we
you
ended up in
were
Carrollton.
you the minister of this
I
church?
was.
Oh wow!
I was, yeah.
And this was all recovery based, or
Yeah, I mean that was the
cool.
vibe, is like
Yeah.
people that are, you know,
Broken.
people that are far from
Yeah.
God and broken, and you know, we had some seasoned Christians in there as well, and it was fantastic for a little while, and you know, so I ended up relapsing in
Oh, okay.
2018, March of 2018.
Fresh off the church.
so what? If you don't mind me asking, what was your demons like? What drove you to? So we would use drugs to cope. Is how I would look at things, you know, and we would cope with something bigger in our lives, you know.
Right.
And so I was wondering, what was your demons? You know, was this was after the military? Did you served in the Marines, but it was,
Yeah.
did you ever go overseas?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
So really, my demon, I guess you could say, is you know, was,
When you were a child,
and I wouldn't even, you know, if you were to ask me prior to going to treatment,
right?
what effect does the childhood trauma that you experienced for that year and a half, how does that manifest itself? And I would give no power or credence to what that animal did to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
But once you understand childhood trauma, you know, it impacts everything.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
You know, it really does. And
That's when the brain's developing. So yeah, it's like you're developing at that time. So yeah. Oh man.
And
Yeah,
trauma
imagine.
at any stage. Like I'm feeling sometimes when I say, oh, stress, whatever, I'm not going to sit in the car and cry and whatever, but you can, and I'm going to come right back to where you are. So we want to definitely hear the end of that sentence, but I'm right at the first part where I say, I don't feel stressed. Then you notice, is your hair getting thin? You can't lie to the body, and you can't lie to the self either. So I wonder, when you first admitted that trauma, how did that work? I mean,
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a learning process for me, over the 32 days that I was at Healing Springs Ranch in Tioga.
Let's shout out to Healing Springs Ranch, Tioga.
Incredible place.
Right.
It's
Is that where you met Dusty?
it is where I met Dusty.
Hey, Dusty Burrows. Shout out to
Shout
Dusty
out
Burrows.
to Dusty Burrows. My brain lies to me. It's an incredible reminder that Dusty actually gave me recently.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's where I met Dusty. So I mean, it was a full on. I'm not trying to survive this relapse. Like from the get go.
That's rude.
No, I mean it was suicidal is what it was, and I've wrestled with suicidal ideation since like age 15. I wrote my first suicide poem actually at 16, and then just put the poem away and never acted on it. And so when I went back out in March of 2018, I had no expectation that I was going to survive, and
So you're trying to kill yourself.
yes,
So you're going all the way.
all the way.
Yeah.
And
That's huge. That's huge too. When you make that turn, it's like there's no turning back, and so yeah, it's pretty big.
Yeah, it was only God bringing me back.
Because it was what, 3 attempts in that.
Wow.
Well, yeah, 2 attempts and then 1 accidental death. I actually died.
Yeah.
On May the 20th of 2018. And it was literally like the stereotypical script that you see in a movie or whatever. You think under the delusion, you think these people are actually your friends or whatever the case, and they are not. And I took the way it happened was we had just picked up a large amount of GHB and we put it in a Dr. Pepper can. Well, I had one Dr. Pepper can that had Dr. Pepper in it, and then I had a Dr. Pepper can that had like 12 ounces of GHB in it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
if people don't know about GHB, it's you don't know the proper amount to take, because for every human it's different.
It's different.
So and I've had friends that have died from GHB. So I mean, it's not them dying from taking it on the sense of just killing them, but them falling out, hitting their head on a commode, dying that way.
Yeah.
So it's GHB, and Dusty had one of his best friends growing up drowned in a swimming pool because he was on GHB.
Really?
So yeah. So I
I
mean,
had no idea.
yeah, it's the date rape drug. If people don't know, I mean, it's what people were putting in people's drinks and random stuff. But it also was a party drug too.
It is.
I took G a lot. So
Yeah.
and it was
And it's used by bodybuilders, right?
Oh,
Supposedly,
yeah.
supposedly
They
to get
said-
better REM sleep
Yeah,
and
yeah.
recovery.
which
All the lies we tell ourselves.
Yeah. You're lying to yourself.
There's always a
Yeah,
rationale,
yeah,
right? Like,
Right. And so, and the other thing too is, Brandon, is like you don't know how many times it's been stepped on, and how pure it is, and
right.
and I will tell you that what I took was very, very powerful. And so I reached down into the console thinking I was grabbing my Dr. Pepper. And so I took a massive swig,
man, yeah. So
Like-
that could kill you right there.
like maybe 6 to 8 ounces,
Yeah.
just straight down the hatch. As soon as I, because it literally tastes like sweat,
Yeah.
and so
Oh, yeah.
I
Yep,
knew
yep.
immediately.
Very
And
salty.
The person that I was with was like, we need to get you to the hospital. And I was like, I don't want to go to the hospital. I'm just going to go in here and play billiards until I die. Literally is what I said.
Yeah.
And went in there and shot billiards. And then the last thing I really remember is acting like a fool,
Mhm.
like completely intoxicated.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
essentially the way you act. And so they were like, you got to get out of here.
But that was another moment. Someone, like, it could have set in without anybody noticing, but somebody saw that you actually drank out of the wrong thing, and wow.
And didn't call 911 or whatever.
Oh, shit.
And
Which is typical of friends that are that are addicts with you.
But he did
you know?
say, "Let me get you to the hospital." I mean,
It's true.
They say that, but then it's like,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
would have drove to the
Good point.
hospital
Yeah.
and dropped him off at the front door and drove off.
Which is what happened.
That's what happened.
They kicked me out of my own car, stole my car, all my belongings, and I was literally did the death rattle, frothing at the mouth on the way to the hospital, and they revived me, Narcan, whatever, and the arrogance, the pride of people that are suffering in the middle of addiction is, as soon as I came to consciousness, the thing that I remember when I came to consciousness was, I'm looking at all these lights and and these medical masks and so forth. And I said, if anyone finds out that I'm here, my name is going to be on the sign out there. I'm going to sue your asses off.
Wow.
And then I passed back out, and I woke up however many days later, and I was, surrounded by my family.
Yeah.
And so literally die.
Which is let me pause you right there.
Yeah.
Family is all you got in the end. So, meaning we have friends, of course, but when you're an addict, in the end, you don't have friends. Okay, they just want partners to use with, just because their life sucks, so they want you to have a sucky life too.
Yeah.
Basically is what it is. So all you have in the very end is your family.
Have you seen people without family?
Oh yeah. Oh, wow.
And so
Yeah, I can only imagine that.
And I think that's what I love about the recovery community.
Mm-hmm.
that's
is
family.
That becomes family.
That's where I was going. Because a lot of us, we lose family.
Yeah. And the people that I find that succeed in recovery are people that have that familial, the DNA family that'll come around and support. And if people don't have that, but they will find themselves a family, whether it be AA, NA, Smart Recovery, Dharma Recovery, there's so many roads to find a family on that are super powerful, and really, and so I left the hospital, convinced my mom to bust me out against medical.
Why was that?
Because
you wanted to go get high again?
I needed to go get high again. And
that's addiction calling right there.
Mm-hmm. My parents did the best they could to keep me alive until some kind of intervention could happen. And so that was May the 20th, and then on June the 6th, on Grand Mesa, Colorado, I lost my mind and found my sobriety. D-Day, June 6, 2018.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. And
shout out to the date.
About a week after that, I landed at Healing Springs Ranch in Tioga and learned a ton about myself. 32 days there, and came out of that experience just completely changed. I had unboxed and unmasked all the trauma and talked through that.
Is that the lost my mind? Probably like totally surrendering, I guess you mean.
Yeah, unwilling surrender.
Okay.
It was, I went stomping down a mountain, because I woke up and realized they had thrown all my paraphernalia that had, my last residue in it, and I'm like, the gig is up now. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I threw this massive temper tantrum and, stormed down this mountain, and just a crazy series of events that day. But, I got back and they were like, well, you go to treatment, and throughout the course of this time, I found out my wife was expecting, a baby during our separation. And I was like, yes, I'll go to treatment. And like the only two places I knew about was Passages in Malibu. I told him I'd go to Passages in Malibu because Malibu sounds it's like $100,000.
It's a ritzy. Yeah.
And then this other place, because I've always loved the hill country, down in the hill country. I can't remember the name of it, but
near Austin.
Yes.
Oh yeah, nice. Austin, it's beautiful.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, hello Austin.
A friend of ours actually found Healing Springs Ranch, and I went in on a Wednesday, the Wednesday before Father's Day, and you know, it was like 80-20. I figured there was about an 80% chance my family wouldn't survive.
Yeah.
And, you know, so the treatment center worked with my family unbeknownst to me, because you're supposed to be in there at least, I think, 96 hours before they'll allow you to have visitation. So typically, typically if you were to go in on a Wednesday, you couldn't have visitation for like 10 days.
Which is good.
Which is great.
Yep.
Fantastic rule, but I was glad at this particular time it wasn't hard and fast.
Yeah.
And so because that Sunday, I went in on Wednesday, that Sunday was Father's Day. And I expected no family visitation. And I just stepped outside and I see Gunner and his sister Ember and my pregnant wife walking down the deal.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Brought tears to your eyes, I'm sure.
Still does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it does. You get emotional when
That sounds unreal to see.
in early days of recovery, I was crying all the time.
Oh, man.
I
Because everything was so beautiful, you know, because we didn't see that side of life for so long, you know. I mean, I was an addict for a decade and a half plus, you know, so I never saw what good looked like. What does good look like? I don't know what good looks like, you know. It's always been negative, so continue. Sorry.
It's amazing, man. Like this, it's literally like people talk about it, you know, like all of a sudden you hear the birds singing. I mean, it's like simple things. And one of the incredible, you talked about a coping mechanism, you know, which substance use is. It's not a good one, but it is one.
Yes.
But one of the incredible, great,
and probably, let me pause you there.
Yeah.
Probably, maybe 70% of the world uses substance for coping, you know, and it's mostly hidden. So nobody wants to tell anybody, hey, I drink to get over, you know, this fear in life, or my wife abuse, or whatever the case is, you know.
Yeah.
So nobody will, it's always hidden, you know.
This was stunning. Gunner, you said it.
And
Do you see the thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I read an 80s stat in the 80s.
In the 80s.
I'm a deep boy. I remember sitting in the library. at
Gunner, were you
Texas
born
A&M.
in the 80s?
No.
No, Gunner was.
I am a bit of an old soul, though.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely, man.
Square bodies and mullets.
Hey,
There you go.
Good,
Square
good.
bodies rocking.
God bless the mullet. You better believe in that. But I
Yeah,
read
man.
a stat. It said 70% of the population in France use Prozac. The stat was crazy. I can't trace it now, but I guarantee if anybody were to do a long tail or a short now with AI, check on, you know, what's the percentage of users of Prozac? And which means, you know, if you don't want to just see the rotten, just, you know, keep me right just on a daily basis. But the number was crazy high, and that's not anything people would count as addiction or even coping.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, I just do that.
I take Prozac.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, you know, better coping mechanisms are like, you know, the tools of mindfulness and gratitude.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so to wake up every morning, you know, and just to take yourself out of that negative headspace, you know, using those tools that I was given, you know, meditation and mindfulness meditation, and then the act, you know, the activity of gratitude, you know, which is choosing to be grateful, not only for the blessings, but also for the battles. And so I just came out of there a changed person. I didn't know what I was going to do, you know, as far as work was concerned. And Gunner, while I was in the middle of my relapse, he had started a small landscape company trying to raise money to go to Australia on a mission trip with my father.
Yo, is that the same company you guys have now?
It is.
Gunner started that. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
God bless you, man.
Yeah. Out of the back of his mom and grandpa's cars.
That's awesome.
With 7 residential lawns. And,
Which means you just went to go do it. I'm just going to go do it.
Yeah. That's pretty much how I live my life, is just do it.
Yeah. There you
It's
go.
like Nike. No, seriously. I just,
The Nike slogan.
yeah, seriously though. I just,
Yeah.
I have a very, what kind of personality? Very,
Type A.
well, yeah, but
Driven?
just like once I set my mind on something, like until it happens.
You're
that
very
is-
driven.
But yeah, it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like
Yeah.
everything else doesn't matter.
And I'm not going to
in a
spend
sense.
12,000 days in a business plan. And later, what you said, what you just did with your business, that is alive today, which is why I say this. People later put science on the back end of it. Well, this is called fast failure, we'll call it in Silicon Valley. What we want to do is iterate until we discover things that we can't discover in the laboratory. Like dog, just do it, because there are things you can't learn until you just start doing it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need all the science behind it. Matter of fact, it's more valuable if you're conscious of what you're doing while you're doing it, and your business can, even in just a business sense, can ramp faster. It can be more efficient than you spending 15,000 hours. Now, I believe in the spreadsheets and all that too, but they come after that.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people just have, these dreams and aspirations to do stuff, but the time they've spent thinking about doing it, they could have been actually doing the thing instead of just thinking about the thing.
Why you slap me like that?
No, I just yeah. I mean, that's it.
My dad calls it the paralysis of analysis.
Yeah.
So, I had, I was like, what are we going to do? And I had filled out some applications, like with the YMCA. I knew I wanted to live a life of service, and so, but nothing was coming back. Nothing was hitting on my resume. And then I finally got one hit. I was talking to a headhunter because I was looking at going back into mortgage, and they asked me for all my, my social media handles and so forth. And, I am an open book. There's no part of my story that's not open to be shared. And the headhunter recommended that I scrub my social media of anything that might imply that I had mental illness.
Yeah.
And that's when I went to my wife and I said, hey, I don't know what it looks like. I haven't grown a landscape company since I was 10 years old. But how cool would it be to work with my son and my wife every day? And so that's what we did. We got a bunch of residential clients, and then that eventually turned into a couple of commercial clients. And then a Marine Corps buddy of mine that I served with at the Grand Prairie Reserve Unit, was a good friend of mine, came to me, and we were working together for the Helping Our Heroes Foundation. He's the co-founder, and he said, hey, you want to buy Trinity Landscape? And so we just completed the purchase of Trinity Landscape, and so now we're
Nice.
growing.
Nice.
Now it's time to thrive.
Yeah.
And then again, this is going to be so funny for all my other VC head type folk listening. They say, well, we're in our first round, second round, seed running, blah, and all the language you put behind that. And then the other language behind, we just did the job. We did it well, kept doing it well, small. Then it got bigger because we kept doing it well, and then we grew into it. And the other ones are going to say, well, we're revenue funded. So that's what you are. It's like straight up. It's just, again, they're just doing it and doing it well, and then staying business conscious, because you had to be, because landscaping in Texas, game over.
Yeah.
There's enough competition.
It's a lot of competition.
And good people who would just pull up in the truck. You were just one of them. So how do you beat out all that? So not to go down that lane, but that's amazing that you were able to use the vehicle to pull up the whole enterprise.
Yeah, it's amazing. Trinity Landscaping and Construction.
Trinity.
So
Say that, Trinity Landscaping and Construction.
Yes, sir.
Got it.
shout out to Trinity Landscaping and Construction.
Well said. Love it.
Hey, do y'all do any kind of electrical work?
I have somebody that can.
I got one socket that I need fixed at my house. Not this house, but my other house, rental property.
Yes, Rance Walters, who's our business partner and mentor.
Yeah.
More mentor and friend, but he shares a lot of business with us, and that's the thing I found is I had this expectation of the real world is cutthroat, like active addiction, and so I would see other green companies or whatever as competition. Well, my assumption was that they saw us as competition, and what I very quickly found, thankfully, is that and I'm sure there are some cutthroat sharks, right, that are business owners. But what I found is that there are more people that are willing to mentor and help and share business than that are looking to slit your throat and leave you in an alley.
Yeah. There's enough business to go around.
Yeah, there is enough.
Plenty of lawns. Plenty
And it's
of
in
lawns
their
around here.
interest to grow the enterprise, the whole other business. Why do you think there's a diamond district? If I'm selling diamonds in the backside of somewhere in Queens, Whereas if I get all my folks together and we're just on the 30s in the middle of freaking New York, then the Diamond District helps all of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Gunner and I talk about this all the time, especially during Christmas light season, because occasionally we will run into, somebody that doesn't want to share or whatever the case. And I'm like, dude, if your business got every single house in this metroplex, all you would have is a bunch of upset clients.
Oh yeah,
We are way better
Couldn't get to them
together.
all. Yep.
Yeah, you couldn't get to them all.
Yeah.
that
And
makes a lot of sense.
you'd end up hiring me anyways. To put the lights up.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so I mean, how fortunate am I after all of this?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That my 22-year-old son's my best friend. He's my gym rat partner. We do everything together. We run miles together. He actually has a girlfriend, and so when he runs off and hangs out with her, I'm super lonely. And and my wife is my best friend. And I have an incredible, loving relationship with my 21-year-old daughter now. She's got type 1 diabetes, and so that's been a struggle together.
Yeah.
It's another huge trauma that I experienced in 2016 in the middle of the church struggles.
Was the daughter having diabetes or
A child with disabilities?
Yeah. That's tough, man.
Yeah. And you feel like you did something wrong,
Right.
I mean, it's just, and hopefully some part of the story resonates with people, but, Gunner and I now are trying to run to make a difference.
Nice. Yep.
And
I wanted to touch on that. I wanted to touch on how your physique, man. You're pretty big, man.
thank you.
You're pretty jacked up. Look at that.
So I was
like,
Tell
man,
him about the 300. I didn't believe it before.
I was fat.
Really, you're fit as can be now, and
I got out of treatment.
Yeah.
And Brandon, you'll know this better than anybody. When you're using meth, the last thing you think about is eating, other than sweets.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a total appetite suppressant.
Yeah.
And so when I got out of treatment, the way that especially my dad, because my dad grew up very, very poor in Chicago, and so really one of his love languages is to eat and have people together to eat. And so, he's always like, you hungry, Bubs? Have another cheeseburger. And so I'm like,
I want a snack an hour before dinner.
you want a snack, Bubs? I know dinner's in an hour, but I'm going to McDonald's. And literally, that's
Non-stop. It kept going.
Really, he was hungry, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
part of the way that I proved to myself and to everybody else that I was still clean and sober was eating.
Yeah, I did the same. So
Yeah.
you're not the only one.
And a lot
Everybody
of
gets
people
fat.
do, yeah.
That proves that it's working.
That's exactly right.
The
And so
system's working.
I got out of treatment in 2018. In 2020, during the pandemic, everybody had some time. And so we joined a gym, and I didn't take it very serious. And then I started working for the Helping Our Heroes Foundation, and my Marine Corps buddy, Travis Wilson, looked at me one day, and only Marines can talk to one another like this, or true brothers and sisters, and he says, "Hey, Wallace, I think I know 5 fat people, and you're 4 of them."
Oh,
He's like, you got to do something, for your family. You got to do something, and it was,
and that's good, man. That's a good call out, actually.
Heck yeah.
Because I mean,
Real family can do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Should-
Same with the running
should
community.
do that,
I think
not can.
running community should be like that too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Call 'em
coming,
out, man.
coming from anybody else, I would have punched him in the nose, but from Travis, he had invested enough in my life and was, we had been there for one another in some dark times. And, there are only certain people in your life that can say that to you. But if you are that person in someone's life, you should take the opportunity to give them the truth.
Yeah.
And
Maybe not necessarily that.
I mean, it was half jesting,
Yeah.
and so then
it probably encouraged you to move your ass and start working on this. Right?
It was part of the tipping point. So the total tipping point was Gunner and I were going to the landfill. We had done a big tree job, and it was him and his buddy Tucker, a high school friend. And I step out of the work truck. And so I don't know if you guys have ever been to the landfill, but you pull up onto the deal, and there's a digital reading of the weight of your vehicle and the trailer and your load, and then, of course, whoever's in the vehicle. And so I step out, And while I'm paying for my load, these knuckleheads are figuring out how many pounds left the vehicle while I was gone. And
Wow.
it was 286.
Dang, doing the negative math. I love it.
And so I get back in the truck, and
How many pounds?
I could tell that they were, that something was going on that I missed, and I'm like,
This is crazy.
okay,
That's
fellas,
good.
okay, fellas, what I missed. And Gunner's like, wow, Dad.
Wow. That's good.
And he's like, at this point, he's like 17 or something. And he's just a shredded animal.
Right. Yeah.
He had, while he was in Sydney, actually, with my dad in Australia, he just decided no more sugary drinks, no more. Boom.
Yeah, and we got to come back to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And had started doing push-ups and a whole bunch of body stuff and body weight stuff. And then he got into the gym when he got home, and it really became a great outlet for him. And so he had been inviting me for a number of years, like, hey, Dad, is today going to be the day where you get in the gym?
Yeah.
And after that encounter of the 286 pounds, I was like, wow, that's
Is that this landfill around the corner off of?
yeah. In Louisville.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It had a different entrance.
I just saw
back then.
birds one day, and I was like, where are those birds? And then I saw a big pile, and I'm like, that's not a pile, that's a steaming pile. That's amazing, right in the middle of town. So I'm geeked out on like, dang, that's a landfill.
It's even crazier.
Now I saw the trucks. I watched it for an hour.
Yeah.
Well, it's even crazier when you're up there, man. They've got literal flare guns.
Yo.
They're shooting up into the air to scare these birds off. It's
Really?
nuts.
Is that-
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, lots of birds.
That's worth a documentary.
They should do a landfill documentary. That's awesome. So Gunner, let's talk about your Sydney trip and what
Yeah, so
got you into all that fitness and
Yeah, so
getting strong. You're a strong boy too.
yeah, I'm pretty strong.
Yeah.
He's not as strong as me.
Because it also didn't come out of, if I'm remembering right, some kind of real moment of anger you had with your dad.
Yeah. Well, so he had left, and I was 16 at the time, and I don't know, man. I'm a very, very empathic person, very empathetic. That's the right word. And just watching my sister and my mom and my grandpa and my grandma wondering, where on earth is he at? Just up and left. This person that I looked up to so much, just being my hero in my own life. And it was really hard. I didn't really know how to process it at the time, just the trauma and everything that I was experiencing, because I had seen other families deal with it firsthand, but myself, I hadn't, I didn't really know what to do. I mean, I knew what to say to others, and other kids my age that, whose parents had, OD'd or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I couldn't even give myself the same advice that I had given others because I was at complete loss. And anyways, long story short is, very, very, very angry. Wanted absolutely nothing to do with him, which shame on me. I can just tell you right now, if you have somebody in your family that's going through a situation, how dare you?
Yeah.
Because how dare me?
Yeah.
How can you just
But
write him off? How can you just write him off?
Tell the how you felt in the sense of that he was your hero and that he, and watching your hero fail you,
Yeah.
it's huge, man,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I had decided that I love traveling. Like I love experiencing new things, tasting new foods, and just living life outside of what you might say your so-called boxes.
Yeah.
And I was offered the opportunity to go to Australia on a missions trip and had to raise $5,000 for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know really. I didn't want to get a job at Subway or whatever to.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to sweat.
that would take a while.
Yeah.
To get the 5,000.
So what I realized,
Especially after Uncle Sam got hit.
God, man.
so what I realized was that whenever I would get really upset, really angry, is that I would just run and walk around the neighborhood.
Oh,
just
yeah,
to kind of
nice.
clear my head. And so I just figured, what better way to raise money than just walk around a bunch of lawns. So
Perfect,
I called my grandpa and I was like, hey, are you busy today? And he's like, not really. I'm like, well, you mind just driving me around so I can raise a little bit of money? He's
Yeah.
like, sure. So he shows up the house and he's got this
Wow.
Buick Enclave, and he's like,
Typical landscaping vehicle.
so he shows up and he's like, I pushed the mower out from the garage, and he's like, well, what on earth are you doing with that? And I said, I'm putting it in the back of your car. I'm going to Australia with you. And
Nice.
so anyways, that's how the landscaping company got started.
Out of a Buick Enclave. Not even a deck. I mean, that's beautiful, man.
Yeah. So during this time, I was just really trying to figure out my own way and kind of what life may be like without my dad. And a lot of anger. And so I ended up going to Australia. And for me, that trip was spiritually enlightening, emotionally, just like everything that I had, trouble with over the course of the 3 or 4 months that he was gone. Just, I would hate to say evaporated, but just kind of evaporated. And it's so funny because me and my grandpa, we would walk on this pier, and it was a half-mile long sort of bridge on the coast. And it was a half-mile down and a half-mile back. And every morning we would go and we'd walk it. And we'd watch the sunrise. We'd get a cup of coffee.
Very nice.
And
You drank coffee.
I could live like
You're a
that
coffee
for the rest of
drinker?
my
oh my
days.
gosh, I love coffee.
Yeah, boy.
I love coffee.
Yep.
And we end up meeting this gentleman, this Australian. His name is Richard. And just oddly enough, my grandpa's name is Richard. Obviously, my dad's name is Richard.
Yeah.
And he comes up behind us and he's like, "G'day, mates. Just come drink some coffee with me and have a brekkie." And so it just, and so, anyways, long story short, we're sitting down with this guy, and I mean, it's like a table of 50, 60-year-olds,
Yeah,
and they go there
yeah.
every morning.
Uh-huh.
And he was just telling us basically his life story and how he was an addict.
You're right.
And
nice.
that walking down this pier every morning saved his life.
Yeah.
A guy that had just seen you do it, and he came and
Yeah, had no
Got
idea.
you,
Yeah,
yeah.
had no idea who this guy was. And so he paid for our coffee, and we only saw him that one time. But
Wow.
it was just so interesting that he's telling his story about what he had gone through and the addiction problems that he had, and now that the family that he has was all of these people that were sitting together, and really it just kind of made me realize, like, wow, like this is just weird.
Right.
And so yeah, I mean, during that trip, I was also bullied from like a young age, and so I've always had like this sort of like tendency to like overcorrect, and so really it got pretty not bad, but I mean I was just down to the point where it was like I'm literally eating. I would eat nothing but just chicken and rice at the age of 16 years old and water.
That's awesome, though, man.
And-
That's
yeah.
a great diet.
Yeah.
So you were already a
Wish I could do it.
bodybuilder. Chicken, rice, and broccoli, bro. Chicken, rice, and broccoli.
Yeah. So just
Natty.
through that experience and that trip, I would go down to the beach every morning, and we'd get done walking, and my grandpa would go up, and he'd sit at the pier, and I would run up and down the beach just as many times as I could, just until I was like to the point of literally like pure exhaustion.
Yeah.
Because the only way that I know how to get tired,
Right.
and
Yeah.
because my mind is going 24/7.
racing.
It's
Yeah.
always racing.
It's your dad's fault, by the way.
And,
that was your dad's semen that made you. He had racing semen at the time.
yeah. So I was just
hilarious.
always very anxiety. I'm a very anxious person, and I've gotten better about it over the course of the past couple of years. But in order to stop thinking about what could be or what might have been or whatever the case, I literally have to physically exhaust myself.
Yeah.
And but I can still function. And so long story short is we just got back from Australia, and I just surrendered, like everything, the anxiety and the anger and
And the
just
anger,
said,
yeah.
yeah.
That's a huge part when you just said it hit me again in the face. I'm sure all this is for me. When you said shame on me that I could think of dismissing somebody, and then the moment when you said I didn't know what to say, even though I told other people, and I'm for years what to say, but I'm looking at that and saying the truth doesn't mean you know the truth. The truth is just something by itself. It's going to be the truth. But just because I can preach to you the absolute truth, it doesn't mean that I know it.
Yeah.
it takes what you said before, get into this is real. And it's like almost going from one dark room into a lit room, but then realizing you thought the room you were in before was lit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's true.
That makes a lot of sense. And also on that journey, man, you were finding yourself too.
Yeah.
So when you dismissed your father, that's like you becoming a man, transitioning also, and finding your way, which was something that, that was your path. You found your coping way of dealing with things. That was you. So that's who Gunner is. So which was fantastic.
Yeah,
Very powerful.
I would have forgot about Richard too if I were you.
But, Brandon, it's interesting that you say that because, I think that everybody kind of goes through life like, wondering who is self, who am I? And I think that one of the coolest parts about life is that we get to go through it, changing who we are based on the things that we experience. And so I think it's super cool that yes, I did find a piece of me, but I think we honestly don't know ourselves fully until we're laying there on our deathbed.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. That's powerful right there.
Yeah. But yeah,
it is true because that's when you're just analyzing your whole life.
Yeah.
and
Or when
just
you
like-
get to one moment where the deathbed is if it's not physical, it's the place where you absolutely cannot see the next step.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
That's what I remember. Face down in the street with zero anything, not just zero money. And I was like, and then that lostness, like I don't know where anything is going to come from this very moment. But then you have a couple of ways to go. I won't even call them choices; they're just ways.
Yeah.
And for me, it came out of somebody listening. Go read it one day. Psalm 77, where a dude said, "Even God, where are you? Has your right hand failed me?" And he says, then I just remembered all the times that I had come through, not on my own strength. And so you just operate up from there, not a big motivation. It's just get up, go that way.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. So I got a question for you, Gunner. Let us know about your goals for 2025, the rest of the year, with the events that the challenges that you're taking on, maybe even some of the fundraisers that you're dipping into to try to raise some money. So go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, so I ran my little bit of a backstory. I'll make it quick. A little bit of a backstory. Ran my first marathon in February, the Austin. It was
It was
That's
a shout
crazy.
out to Austin.
First
Yeah.
marathon. That's beautiful, man.
unreal experience, awesome city, intriguing vibes. I mean, that place is just super interesting to me.
That's to go one more.
Yeah,
Go one more marathon.
So I don't do these races for necessarily myself, but for my emotional self, because what I've realized is that everything that I've gone through in my life it's been hard, but I've made it through the other side. And so I think that like the correlation between running and life is so very interesting to me, and the psychology behind it. And really my goal over the course of the next few years is really going to be finding my physical body's breaking point. And so the marathon, it was hard, but I was still standing at the finish line.
Right.
And so
I like that. That's
Yeah,
kinda my goal.
not. And you see some people, just to be clear, they wax out at the finish line because they haven't trained. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
I mean, I've trained, but now I'm gonna go that 40-50% more off of an absolute zero.
Yeah. And Ironman Melbourne
nice.
is November 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So-
70.3.
So you're big with the Aussies, huh?
Yeah, so it's so interesting because I like their kindness towards others is just something that's kind of hard to find in America. Americans are always
So busy.
so busy and
The random kindness.
Yeah.
From different people everywhere. Yeah.
and I think a lot of it has to do with the mindfulness that they're able to experience on a daily basis. Just being able to like understand that like
Are they generally closer to the nature too. Even people who live in the cities, like
Yeah.
they're conscious of. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And one of the craziest things about Australia is, you could go 150 miles in each direction and it's a completely different terrain. You've got jungles and desert and, oceanside and the city life. Yeah, so it's a very intriguing country.
That's nice.
So the reason I want to do Melbourne, 70.3 is because I went there for hope and healing.
Yeah.
And what I want to do now is go back for brokenness and hopelessness. And, hopefully I can help somebody, through the things that I experienced and are going to experience.
Yeah.
Help with, addiction and suicidal ideations and whatever the case may be to just
Raise awareness and funds.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
man.
So to put it back, to put it real here on there, how do we raise the funds? If you're talking to folks right now, where does that?
We have no idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely no clue. No, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, because obviously there's expenses that go along with the race and the gear and the airfare and the hotels or whatever. But really, I'm not even so much focused on.
Shout out to Brandon
Hey.
Yeah.
for gifting Gunner his
Oh,
his
yeah,
first
yeah,
wetsuit.
yeah,
when
yeah,
we were here
yeah.
last.
I cried for 2.5 hours.
Oh man.
No, he really did.
Wow,
I
really
really?
did.
That was beautiful, man.
I cried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoot, I got so much other stuff I can give you then. I'm gonna keep you crying forever.
That's exactly right.
You put that thing on yet?
I once.
Okay. Yeah. So
That's good.
it's hard.
It's,
to-
it's complete. He's put it on.
Yeah.
It's much easier when it's wet and
Yes.
when you're wet.
It's tough. For sure.
Yeah,
For
but-
everybody. So.
So I mean, there are organizations that I do want to work with, but I just feel like, especially in today's culture and age, it's everybody. I feel like either gives money towards the wrong things, or it's like they do give their money to something and then it ends up being a complete cluster bomb, or it's just a
Or they're
scam.
conned into giving money for.
Yeah,
I'm not going to blame anything on the church, but there's a lot of churches out
there are a
there
lot of
that.
churches there are.
Oh, yeah, that's been the business. Yeah.
So, so that's really just a matter of getting down in the nitty gritty and figuring it out. But it's crazy.
So,
man.
if there are any
It's-
corporations that want to
Oh yeah,
that
Help
want to
Gunner.
sponsor a
Yeah,
singlet
yeah.
or give money and have
Oh,
your
yeah,
brand
yeah.
represented, we honestly have no idea what's the best.
So
And throw
is
your
it-
IG handles
when is
too.
this Melbourne race?
November 9th. Yeah.
November 9th. Okay. Because we're gonna create singlets for. We're doing March 1 in Monterey again.
Uh-huh.
2026.
So we're gonna create some new singlets for the team, and if
And I would like to do
we
that
do
one
it
with you,
before November, then I'll try to get you one. Otherwise, I got something I could give you also.
I don't mind. So the fundraising piece we haven't quite figured out yet. We've got a couple of partnerships with veteran organizations that are already established. I'm part of the Helping Our Heroes Foundation, and my good friend Travis Wilson over there helps us get to our races. And we represent the brand just for brand awareness there. Our good buddy PJ at Therapeutic Recreation Group, he's actually helping us set up the fundraising aspect for the Melbourne Ironman.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we're looking to not only raise money for Gunner to do the Ironman, but also then for that charity to thrive as a result. And so we don't know what all that looks like yet, but yeah, we're super excited about that. He's going to go, I think, and crew his buddy
Yeah.
at the BPN Last Man Standing.
Nice. Yeah, man.
so
That's it, man.
That's another venture he has coming up.
Yeah.
I think I know his calendar better than him, so I'll jump in here.
Yeah, let's go.
And so then his girlfriend graduates from Texas Tech. While he's in Lubbock, me and some Marine Corps buddies are going to be running the Austin Spartan.
Oh, sweet. Yep.
It's always a good time. And then I think we're kind of chill until Memorial Day. And
Chill till
Memorial Day last year is really where this whole father and son on the run thing teed off.
Yeah.
We went down to the Carry the Load Memorial Walk in, what's the name of that trail? Katy Trail.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the day before Memorial Day, and then took off in the middle of the night and drove to Geronimo Our friend Mason owns a
nice.
brand called NFQ. And so we did the Murph with them. So
Oh, nice.
we basically rucked just under marathon distance on Sunday, and then went down to Geronimo.
Weighted vests with
Wait.
weighted.
Man,
Weighted vest.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then did the Murph. And so we're doing that in May.
that's
And then I think what's after that? Labor Day?
I think so.
September.
I don't know.
Yeah.
September.
Yeah. We're doing the last man standing race for Black Flag,
Yeah, Quanah Hill.
Quanah Hill Massacre.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
Were you there last
Last year. Yeah, I think so.
year? Yeah, you
I
were,
think you
weren't
were.
you?
Yeah, last
We
year.
didn't know that.
Yeah, because I vomited.
You saw him?
I mean, I felt like
Dude, it was so huge.
I felt like my spleen, or not my spleen, but my spine went out of my asshole. Basically.
Yeah,
So I vomited
Tell
so
it.
bad. I was so dehydrated,
Yeah.
and life was miserable, man.
Yeah, bro.
And shout out to Roberto Gonzalez because he helped me.
That max misery.
Roberto, yeah, he actually got me on the back of the vehicle. I was throwing up everywhere, and it was just throwing up water though.
Yeah.
So
Even worse.
I just took in too much
11 pounds
fluids.
of water weight.
Yeah,
in-
man, I
in
can
like
only
that
imagine.
12-hour
it was
period.
gnarly. I'm
Yeah,
not sure why we want to do it again.
No. Yeah,
I think
it's worth it, man.
Yeah, no, and I think it was
That's
just
why.
weird.
You know
that-
why? Because it's a challenge.
Like you
and-
say, go to that edge
Yep.
and go over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
sure.
an interesting race. 5 o'clock start time with like 90%
Yeah.
humidity
God.
and rain. Yeah.
And then
People die in that. Like,
then I've got the Marine Corps Marathon.
Mhm.
That's the 50th running of the Marine Corps Marathon
Ooh.
in
Oh, yeah,
Quantico,
that's
Virginia.
yeah,
I'm really, really looking forward to that. It's in October.
that's gonna be huge.
Yeah, and then hopefully November has us in Melbourne, Australia.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir. Yes,
yeah.
sir.
That's awesome.
So we're father and son on the run on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Give us a follow.
Yeah.
We'd
Shout,
love to
shout
connect.
out, father and son on the run.
Father and son on the run.
Yep.
Dynamite. Yeah, but if the Spartan doesn't work out,
Mhm.
I absolutely love Possum Kingdom Lane.
Come,
Yeah,
man.
May
Post
17th,
Revenge,
Blaze Trails,
Yes.
Possum Kingdom.
That was
Yeah.
and speaking of
Shout out to
incredible
Blaze Trail.
people, Blaze Trail.
yeah.
Chris and Ann are just awesome.
They're the most
people.
amazing
So
people.
we're gonna have them on actually
you
after. Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
Like,
they,
remember
they,
how
they,
you
co-
said-
they committed to the 22nd or 21st, 20, whatever's that Sunday. So yeah.
They
He's
got me
one of-
through my first death, which is when you said your friend walked up to you. I know 5 fat people, and you're 4 of them. I had it was 100K, but it was running in pure cake batter from the beginning to the end, and rain and all that stuff. And I thought I was hurt because I was.
I was
But
hurting.
I'm coming into my last 5 miles, and Brandon knows me. Ain't no way in the world I'm not gonna finish it. But I just said no. I'm actually done. I looked at Ann, and she gave me the 5 fat guys, but she did it like this. I said, Ann, I'm not even embarrassed. I'm just done. You know me. I'm done. And all she said was, "Hey, get Eric some tape over here."
Yeah.
She tried to do that to me.
Yeah. So it's a trick, Ann. That's your method. And she said, well, just start walking that way and see how it works. Next thing I know, I'm in the
popsicle sticks
freaking
and
woods
tape.
again for my last 5 miles, clocking 11 minutes, which if you don't know any better after
That's
that,
quick.
it's
Shout out to
fast
Ann.
in the woods. So thanks, Ann. You need that kind of family. They have
do.
become exactly that for me. So when you were saying shout out to Blaze Trails, I had to throw that in.
Yeah.
And Tom Monty.
Tom Monty, man.
Yeah,
Shout out to Monty.
Big Tom.
Man, Tom. He's also a Marine.
Yeah, he is.
Tom.
In fact, Tom texted me that Sunday and was like, "Hey, I just heard you left 2 of my favorite people,
Yeah.
Eric,
Oh, man.
and, Eric
Yeah.
and Brandon."
So we're gonna have him, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure who else is gonna be with him at that time, but we're gonna take our equipment to Trailhead,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's
the
gonna
running
be
supply
great.
store, and
Yeah,
then
it's
we're
gonna be
gonna
great.
have all them on there actually
Man.
at different times of that Sunday.
Cool.
So yeah. So we'll take all this equipment and we're gonna head down there.
So-
It'll be around the time I move. So I'm gonna move probably in like maybe 3 or 4 months. So probably we're gonna do it then.
So we were kind of just into the bodybuilding thing, and he had run across somebody on YouTube or whatever, and I'm that typical veteran that's like, leave the service. And, you know, I think every veteran says, I'm never going to run another day in my life, you know? And so that was literally, and I had stuck to it. And so Gunner was like, Dad, would you start running with me? And I was like, I would explore it, you know, and somebody he had seen on YouTube or something, you know, and he had gotten into the trail thing, and we just came across Trailhead's website.
Yeah.
And he goes in there, you know, and I'm used to big corporate box stores. You know, the salespeople don't crack, you know, don't care. And he starts asking questions from Tom. That you know, I was a little bit embarrassed. I'm like, you know, Gunner, that's kind of something you could have Googled, you know. And Tom was so patient. He wasn't trying to sell anything.
They're all very helpful.
It was just for the love of the sport.
Yeah.
And it helped. You know, I was like, what? You know, these people are like family.
Yeah, there's not a place you'll find like that. And I think Darren Beck.
Yeah, shout out to Darren Beck for sure.
Because
he's the owner of that
when I
place,
walked in, like you said, not knowing anybody, they start with that family, and you won't find the family nor the technology nor the specific trail stuff. And shoot, I lived from New York to LA, and there's nothing like those. You'd expect typically to find it. Where is this store? Well, it's tucked away in Boulder behind that. Yeah.
Right.
These are the dudes. If you run trail, this is the spot in the doggone country.
Yeah. And I ran into Darren the other day, and
you did.
You know, we had, you know, because usually I'm with my family, and it just happened to be my wife and I, and we were on the way to a restaurant right around the corner from Trailhead, and we, for whatever reason, that encounter was like business owner to business owner. You know, you
sometimes different. Yeah.
And I was like, hey, how's business? And he's like, you know, I mean, as far as that aspect, he's like, but what I really want the community to find, and I'm just passing this message along, and he never intended for me to pass this message along. He's like, I just wish Flower Mound and the surrounding area would realize that we can be their local shoe store too.
Yeah, man, for sure.
They're not getting it local. Dude, people are coming from 30, 40, 50 miles around to go there.
Yeah, if they're runners.
But you always disrespect the local. We always tend to do that.
I mean, there are a few business owners in the Flower Mound, Louisville area that really I feel like deserve to have their businesses explode and take off and get everything the universe has for them. And that guy and his employees
just on a good people vibe.
People.
I've bumped into him in races, and me and Darren will know this. And I was like, well, I got to get these last few. And Darren's just with me, man, for 15 miles.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
He's a cool guy.
And we just chopping it up along the way, and there's nothing better than just to vibe with somebody who's just real freaking people.
Yeah, authentic.
Yeah.
We were coming off a trail run, like out of the trails and back up towards Trailhead, and he and his wife I don't know if they live back there or what, but
they live in the trail, live in the woods.
Actually, they do live right near the
neighborhood.
Very close.
And so he rolls the window down, and he's like, Wallace is.
Yeah.
You know,
oh man, he's
That's what he
is man. Cool. I don't know how to explain the energy he has. It's beautiful. It's every time he comes, I always try to give people the old high five, pull them in, hug. You know, that's kind of my method. He comes straight for the hug. You know, so it's like there's a lot of love he gives. You know what I mean? And I love that about people, man, because we should all love each other, man. And that's he's one of the ones that he loves the community. He loves the people. He loves people, man. That's good.
Yeah.
So I mean we're tight on time.
Yep.
So
it's been awesome.
I got to ask you guys one last question, and you already know what it is. Gunner, what's your favorite movie?
I beat you to it this time. Yeah, Tombstone.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Tombstone.
So shout out to Tombstone. Val Kilmer. Rest in peace. Yeah. So beautiful.
Rest in peace, Val
and
Kilmer.
Dad, what do you got for us?
Collateral Beauty.
Collateral Beauty.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Shout out to Collateral Beauty.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah. Who's that in that one?
It's deep.
Will Smith.
Oh, is
Will
it?
Smith.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. There's a twist at the end. I don't want to ruin
wicked.
it for you.
Yeah.
And then
that's not the war one he's in though. No. Okay.
And then it's
Which one was this Collateral Beauty? I'm trying to think of what that is.
Yeah, so it's he's asked to write a letter to I don't want to ruin it for the audience, but they actually showed it to us at treatment.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And then like I probably went through 3 boxes of tissues, and we had
Yeah.
it ended up being like a marathon therapy session. You know, because you do music therapies, you know, where you discuss lyrics, and so this was kind of like film therapy, and it's such a powerful film, and not a lot of people have heard of it. Collateral Beauty.
Very cool. Very cool. So we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you guys for coming out.
Thanks for
man.
having us.
I
man. What an
appreciate
honor.
it, and it's been a good time. And thanks for repeating the episode. sorry
Absolutely.
about last time.
Just another conversation over coffee. And
Everything happens for a reason.
All right, we're out.
Collateral Beauty. I'd never heard of that movie.
Brother.
I like did what's the name do this for us? Wow, just brain blank. Who did the music? Chad did it. No, but who did the music?
Oh,
So how did you get into podcasts?